So, are you all ready to cry? Yeah, that's my job today. I'm gonna make you cry. Ready for changes to the most powerful weapon class in Warframe? You're not ready? Well, tough titty. Welcome on in, you beautiful feckers. How you all doing? This is a long damn video, so big sorry for me. Expect melee range changes in Warframe, combo counter changes, damage changes, mastery changes, some of our go-to mods for a lot of our builds for crit, and of course status builds are being completely reworked. Daggers might be dead on arrival, with covert lethality being removed, blocking changes and more coming with phase 2 of the Warframe Melee 3.0 changes that are supposedly arriving this week, all things going well, with update 26. Now there is a dev workshop post up right now detailing a lot of these changes, which I will link in the description of this video. Now it is worth noting that these are still a work in progress and can still change before and even after release depending on the feedback that the community gives. So share your thoughts. Now, like a lot of you, I'm concerned about a lot of these changes, from the range of melee weapons being normalized and the changes to condition overload, blood rushes, scaling potential, but I will go over all of those in a minute. First of all, let's just jump right in forehead first, right? And let's look at the mod changes first of all, because they are what is worrying a lot of us. That and of course the melee range changes. Overall, the range of melee weapons is being increased, but reach mods are going to affect weapons differently. This will mean weapons like my Plagues or Kripat might not have the insane reach that it has right now and will lose maybe a few inches, but smaller weapons will have their default range slightly increased. So there's kind of a rebalance being put in there. You can expect a big change to your weapon stats showing up on the weapon select screen, with new values showing up there like range, blocking angle, follow through, and of course heavy attacks as well. So they are some very welcome stats that we haven't had before, especially the range one. Now these are the mod changes. The big changes are of course to blood rush, condition overload, covert lethality, and of course Maiming Strike. Not to mention the reach mods and life strike as well. Blood rush will now scale differently. The crit multiplier is now going to be based on your combo counter by a set percentage per tier of that combo counter, but we don't know the exact percentage yet, so it is really hard for us to judge how this is going to impact our gameplay. This change for me is a bit of an issue simply because it now scales off a fluctuating combo counter, which we will be spending those points on heavy attacks. This means that your combo counter is going to be up and down a lot depending on your usage of heavy attacks. Of course, you can always choose to not use them and you'll be fine, and depending on how fast the new combo meter fills up as well. This means that if you build your combo counter up to orange or red crit territory, then that will all vanish the minute you perform a heavy attack. So expect lots of ups and downs with your crit chance with this change. Now to me, this definitely looks like a nerf to higher content, or I guess more challenging scaling content, but until we see the exact percentage again, we're not entirely sure. The speed of your combo builder as well, and see how much the base damage of all melee weapons is being increased, then it is really hard for us to get a proper feel for these changes. Now the fact that this heavily affects the crit scaling will affect endurance runners big time, I would imagine, but only, like I said, if they choose to use those heavy attacks. It probably won't be noticed within the normal gameplay. Condition overload now stacks at a maximum of 3 status effects. Its additional damage percentage is being increased above the current 60%, but like Blood Rush, we don't know the final percentage because they don't know the final percentage yet either. They're still working on it, which is kind of crazy considering that this update is meant to drop next week, so I'm sure they have a good idea of what that final percentage is, but they just didn't want to tell us. Now the new condition overload, like I said, will be based off a maximum of 3 status effects. Like Blood Rush, this will be fine for the average melee weapon builds, but if you're a player who has a dedicated status applying sidearm build, like bringing the Pox or the Zakti to apply loads of extra status effects in order to bump that damage right up, then you will more than likely see a decrease in overall performance in the damage output. Applying 5 or 6 elemental status effects won't really matter because the mod will only count 3 of them, so players who have built incredibly powerful setups for this kind of run will notice a decline, while the normal player who doesn't have a dedicated setup to applying these status effects will probably notice a buff to their overall damage. Now, if the final percentage for this is up in the mid 70s or 80s, then it might not be too bad, but these two changes alone to Condition Overload and Blood Rush feel like they are pushing or trying to push players still even further away from endurance content or scaling content, I guess because they know once enemies scale up it's broken as all hell. But maybe I'm wrong, Maiming Strike is getting a similar rework to Condition Overload. Its values are being changed to a stacking buff and not an additional 90% crit chance bonus, which again is reinforcing their opinion that Spin to Win was the go-to setup for a lot of players. And now that Blood Rush is changing, Condition Overload is changing, and Maiming Strike is changing, then Spin to Win could be way less effective. Again, we don't know. There's just too much of this we don't know because we don't have the exact values until this update drops. Covert lethality is being removed from all daggers in game. Forget daggers, you don't need that little tiny weapon, you need a big boy weapon. Little weapons are no good. This will probably single-handedly kill off the dagger weapon class, since that's the only reason anyone really used daggers, you know, especially now that the daggers look like they have a much smaller degree of blocking as well. Your small weapon just isn't as effective. Covert lethality, however, is being added to our new Parazon blade instead. This means you don't need a dagger, and you can equip any melee weapon you want and still make use of covert lethality on that Parazon blade. So I guess rest in peace daggers. The other thing is we're not sure what the kind of casting animation for a finisher with the Parazon blade is. It could be an over elaborate kind of finisher that could be 2 or 3 seconds, which will heavily affect anyone. I guess Inros users would be used to using a really fast dagger with covert lethality that allowed them to kind of blend their way through as many enemies as possible that you just kicked sand in the eyes of. Whereas now it could be a much slower animation and not be as effective. So again, we don't know. Now, reach mods will also normalize your melee weapons range. As an example, DE Bear showcased a before and after of the Cassowary polearm with a 7 out of 10 ranked primed reach. The before shows 120% bonus range from primed reach, and the after shows a plus 2.9 to the weapon's range. I've no idea what the 2.9 is. It looks like it's just a flat amount from the mod, but the difference honestly in the footage of both of these, the before and after, isn't that noticeable. So range might be okay for the most part, especially if smaller weapons like swords get a flat increase in range to bring them up in line. Now, if you add in a ranged base Riven, then range could become the go-to stat for a lot of players when looking for melee Rivens. Life Strike will now work with heavy attacks, so it will still function the same way. Don't worry about Life Strike. Instead of having to channel, you will have to spend, I guess, combo points to get that fat heal. So it looks like it's going to be okay. That's pretty much the mod changes, but the combo system is also changing in game. Our new combo meter will now be a resource that we choose to spend on heavy attacks whenever you want to for increased damage. This meter apparently will fill up much faster than it currently does from all sources like attacks, blocking, thrown weapons, and of course radial slams as well. Swift attacks apparently from your melee weapon will give lower combo build-up time than the slower, heavier swings, which will fill it up much faster. And because only the heavy attacks will scale off that combo counter's damage, now they have increased the default or base damage of all melee weapons in game across the board. This means you will see bigger numbers from normal swings and choose, I guess, when to dish out bigger numbers to a chosen target or slam on the ground to cause that new lifted status effect, which is like a mini Rhino Stomp that hangs enemies up into the air. It consumes all of your combo points, deals a lot of damage, hangs those enemies up and allows you to ping between them, killing them one by one. Now, we're being told that our new melee combo setup is similar to how Wukong's is right now in the game with his staff, with forward momentum, the focus on melee swings, and introducing gap closers for more fluid movement. I'll be honest, Wukong right now is a lot of fun because of that combo system, because of how much mobility he has moving around while in that staff, while using his melee. He's more fun, so if they bring other melee weapons into that same focus, into that same mold, then I will be pretty damn happy. Manual blocking has been redesigned to allow us to prevent 100% of incoming damage based on the angle of your melee weapon. Now, what do you mean by angle, potato? Well, listen, okay, it's as simple as this. The angle of your dangle will stop all incoming bangers. This image gives you a better idea of what this all means. Some weapons have a better frontal angle of defense, whereas smaller ones like daggers won't. There is also specific angle increasing mods that you can equip if your dangle doesn't angle enough. Just helicopter that shit and stretch it out, right? Do whatever you have to. Now, the addition of a 100% damage blocking could lead to a new sword and shield meta. Depends, I guess, on how much blocking we can get out of some of those additional mods. Now, in one of those images, it is a Silva and Aegis giving 70 degrees of blocking, which will be really nice in tile sets with small corridors, but outside in the open world, you're still getting shot in the side, shot in the arse, and of course shot in the back. So maybe polearms or staffs, will give you more of a blocking coverage because they are much larger weapons, or even heavy blades. Again, we'll have to wait and see once the update drops. Dodge cancelling and tactical dodging, no relation. I spoke about these in the dev stream video. They are a way to cancel our combo swings by rolling or sidestepping or backflipping out of harm's way. Looks great, and I'm sure with the flow or with the fluid movement of the new melee system, it'll be great to look at. But I'm going to be honest here, I'm way too much of a Neanderthal to care about looking graceful. I'm going to just be face first into all of the incoming damage, swinging like an absolute madman. Now, they also mentioned another mechanic that's being worked on for possible Phase 3 of Melee 3.0 called Rage Mode, but we know next to nothing really about it other than it's rooted in Warframe lore and going to have some kind of a story behind it. They don't want it to be just another kind of tacked on addition. So that's all of the melee changes. I'm really sorry for the really long video, but there was a lot to get through. There is cause for concern whenever we get large updates full of overall changes like this, which completely change core mechanics of the game. So there is reason to be worried, but at the same time there is still too much we don't know in terms of values being changed on certain mods, so I'm not going to panic yet. Just give proper feedback once these changes go live. If there is something that you're not happy with, make sure and let them know. Let me know what you think of the changes, whether you like them or don't. Do me a huge favour and hit that like button if you enjoyed the video, or don't if you didn't. Sub for more Warframe, and as always, thanks for watching.